What's going on, friends? Welcome back to another New World video. Today we're going to be talking about gear score in New World and the next gear score increase coming with New World Aeternum. Now, those of you who have played since way back in the day will remember that the max gear score used to be 600. One of the best ways to get this was with the good old-fashioned Voidbent armor. Shortly after this, there was a gear score increase to 625, and the way that you would go from 600 to 625 was actually pretty straightforward. You just acquired Umbral Shards, and then you could click on an item and upgrade it, spend the amount of Umbral Shards you want, and upgrade it to the max gear score. Now after this, we had the Rise of the Angry Earth expansion. This increased the gear score ceiling to 700, but the way that you would go about getting to 700 was basically just farming or crafting all of your items again. So we had to say goodbye to pretty much all of our old gear in order to get the new stuff. And now, we have an increase to 725. And like I say, in today's video, we're going to be talking exactly how you can go to 725. Can you upgrade your existing gear? What happens to your artifacts, crafting, all of that good stuff. So, as always, friends, if you find these videos useful, you want to see more New World content, the old subscribe button is there. You can leave a like. But with that being said, let's jump into the video. Now, spoilers, pretty much all of this video is going to take place on this website. This is good old New World database. Those of you who have been playing New World for quite some time will be familiar with it. But if you want, I'll leave a link in the description down below. It's effectively a resource you can use to find out almost everything in the game. You can find out different types of chests and then what the chests have in them, where to get them from, how much they cost. It's just a very, very valuable resource. And one of the things that is particularly good about New World database is it gets updated every time we have a patch for the game. And at time of recording, we've just received the open beta for New World Aeternum. And of course, that means that they can do some data mining, dig into the files, and see what's going on. So I can't actually display it in game because the open beta isn't playable right now, and we're only going to be able to get to level 30, but I've done quite a bit of research, and I have, in my opinion, been able to put together the ways that you can go to 725 gear score. So let's first of all talk about ways that you can acquire 725. There are 3 different ways as far as I can tell. The first way is through the PvP islands. So you're going to be getting boxes like this. This is the Apex Gold Cursed Leg Armor Crate. This is another one here. This is the Apex Gold Cursed Magic Weapon Crate. These cost doubloons, which we gather from basically the PvP island. They appear to just come from lots of chests on the PvP island. So basically doing chest runs while you're PvP flagged when other people are trying to kill you. You earn the doubloons, and you're also going to need one of the resource called the Gold Cursed Coconut. Now this is a time gating mechanic. You can only get one of these each week, so I'm assuming that Tuesday 5 a.m. server time is usually the reset, and these come from specifically large chests. So there's these items, these chests called Cursed Horde. Again, almost certain that these are going to be located in the PvP island. So you can get one Cursed Gold Coconut a week, and then obviously there's also the Mystic Doubloons, and from what we've heard, when you kill the players, they will drop their Mystic Doubloons on them, or at least they'll drop their cursed Mystic Doubloons. So yeah, gonna have to do a bit of farming in the PvP island. Once you have enough resources, you'll be able to take those resources to an area known as, let's see, it lists it over here. It's the Well of Fortune. So I think we can see here, yeah, it requires the Well of Fortune. So I'm assuming this is kind of like a gypsum kiln sort of thing. And yeah, you feed it doubloons, you feel the coconut, and then you get a box. And then if you open up the box, possible drops, you've got light, medium, and heavy legs, and they are guaranteed to be 725 gear score. There is one other box that can also go up to 725, and that is the Gold Cursed Epic Crate. So in here, there are items that do potentially go to 725, but there's also a ton of other stuff as well. Data mining on this box suggests that it's only about a 5% chance that you get a 725 gear score item, so only 5% chance at actually getting something good. But the good news is you can, from what we can tell, buy 3 of these per week. So unlike with this, which is only basically once per week because the coconut, this one instead only costs 35 Mystic Doubloons. And yeah, you can see you can craft 3 every 24 hours is actually what it says there. So I was under the impression it was 3 per week, but right now it's saying 3 every 24 hours. So quite a few attempts at getting 725 gear score weapons, armor, and jewelry from these bad boys, and of course the guarantee from these. And taking a quick look at the menu, you can see that there is a helmet, chest, gloves, legs, boots. So there is a box for basically everything: one-handed, two-handed, magic, ranged weapons, trinkets, etc. So the price slightly varies between them, but they all require a Gold Cursed Coconut. So that is one of the first ways we're going to be getting to 725. It is by getting 1 coconut a week from a big chest, getting a bunch of Mystic Doubloons from smaller chests, or killing other players. and then taking them to the Well of Fortune to basically get yourself a box and then open up the box and hope that you get the item that you want. It does say item is guaranteed legendary and loot biased, so it's implied that the item that you get from this would be based upon what you're currently wearing and how you have your attributes assigned. One of the way that we know we can acquire 725 gear score armor and trinkets, so this is not weapons, is through the weekly Outpost Rush or 3v3 arena box. So it says it contains gear score 700 to 725 armor or trinkets, loot bias towards your current equipment. So again, we got that loot bias. These are limited to once a week. The way that you acquire these, to my understanding, is you basically play 3v3 arena or Outpost Rush, and you have a 5% chance to get one at the end of Outpost Rush, or a 2.5% chance to get one from 3v3 arena. But there is an interesting mechanic where it's based on your performance. So if you play really well, whatever that might mean, you're more likely to receive one of these. And if you play poorly, then you're less likely. So at a 5% chance from Outpost Rush, assuming that you're playing very well, which I guess means getting a high score, or a 2.5% chance from 3v3 arena. So Outpost Rush is going to be better to queue for the odds, but obviously 3v3 arena games, you'll go through them faster. And again, this can have 725 gear score armor, and then we've also got the jewelry over here as well. I haven't looked through the perks on it, but again, we're going through the basics here of how to get to 725. So through PvP, we effectively have the weekly box from 3v3 Arena or Outpost Rush. You're going to have to probably do quite a few to get this to pop up. And then, of course, we have the gold cursed stuff, so the Apex and the Epic gold cursed. And then, interestingly enough, there are actually just weapons you can buy directly as well. Let me show you those. So we have a few of them down here. Now, these don't come in at 725. To my understanding, when you buy them, they come at 710, and then you'll need to upgrade them to 725. The price or the way to get one of these, if we go to crafting recipes, we can see it requires 750 mystic doubloons, so you don't actually need one of those coconuts to make these bad boys, but I don't believe they come at 710. I think you do need to upgrade these, and they all have similar perks. We have this new PvP perk, Penetrating the Empowered, and then we have Keen. Void Gauntlet, same thing. Ice Gauntlet, same thing. I think it's only the life staff that has Blessed and Refreshing Divine Embrace, which actually really, really good life staff here. The third perk, assuming you get lucky, it's randomly rolled. Honestly, potentially best in slot life staff there. And again, this one, just like with all the others, if we check the crafting recipe, this is 750 Mystic Doubloons at that Well of Fortune, which again, I'm assuming is a crafting station somewhere, either in the PvP zone or in Cutlass Keys in general. The next way we know of to acquire 725 gear score weapons, armor, and jewelry comes from the raid, and that is in the form of 3 different pieces of gear. So you can see we've got all this hoplite stuff here. This is effectively like named stuff, so it's got predetermined perks on it. Health and refreshing on the armor. The weapons have another new perk on them, so if we take a look at this rapier here, it has Disdained Infliction. Potency of outgoing damage over time is increased by 15%, but this is PvE only. So again, you can pause the video and read the perks if you want. We're mainly just going to be talking about how to actually acquire this stuff. And as I mentioned, we have the Hoplite gear, then we have another set called the Gorgon's gear, and then we have another set called the Gorgonite. So 3 different types, and there is some sort of differences between these. So the Hoplite is pretty straightforward. This either is going to drop from a boss in the actual raid itself. The Hive of the Gorgons is what the name of the raid is. It's a 10-person raid with 3 different bosses, basically. And yeah, you either get it as a drop, or you can also craft one at the Gypsum Kiln under the Gorgon's Hive named replicas. But in order to do that, you're going to need a special currency. So as you can see, it requires Hive of Gorgons token, and these, I guess, you just get from... In fact, let's just take a look. Yeah, they just come from completing the Hive of the Gorgons. The exact amount we get, I don't believe I know yet, but you can effectively get tokens to make pieces of gear that you want from the Gypsum Kiln. In the case of making these shoes, they cost 40 tokens, but they can just drop as is from bosses within the Hive of the Gorgons as well. So yeah, pretty straightforward on the first one. They come in at 725. The bottom perk is random. You can change these at the Gypsum Kiln, basically with the upgrading method we would do with 3v3 Arena. But again, you can also craft them with those Hive of Gorgons token as well. The next piece of gear is the Gorgon set. Again, we have the sandals here, the Gorgon sandals, 725. And again, these are just pretty much a drop. It's fairly straightforward. They drop from bosses within Hive of the Gorgons, one of the 3 bosses. There is also a craftable version of the Gorgon set as well. So you can see these are bind and equip, which is pretty interesting. So the version that actually drops from bosses, drops from Typhon in this case, this is bind and pickup. But this over here, we can craft. So there is a way to craft 725 gear score armor, but you will need to still do the raid. And the reason why I say that is if we go ahead and take a look at the recipe for these bad boys. I'm just going to open up a new tab. Let's see here. We need the schematic in order to be able to have the crafting recipe. So you need the schematic Gorgonite sandals, and I think I've got that open over here. This is only awarded from completing the raid, basically, or completing the second wave. Basically, killing the second boss has a chance of giving you the schematic. So yeah, you still effectively need to do the raid, and you also need another material called the Gorgon's Eye, which again only drops from the raid bosses. So there is crafted gear that you can make and trade effectively within the Hive of Gorgons raid, but again, you still actually need to go into the raid in order to get the schematic. Although, interestingly enough, I don't believe the schematic is bound, so I think you could trade this to other players. So you could go into the raid and then sell this to players, and then the players could use it, but that actually I don't think that works because they need the Gorgon's Eye, and I'm pretty sure this might be bound. Actually, it doesn't say it is right now, so maybe it is actually possible to just, with lots and lots of gold, buy the Gorgon's Eye, buy the schematic, and then basically make yourself a pair of boots and stuff. The other materials needed for them isn't too bad. You're obviously going to be using full prismatic and all the other standard sort of stuff you would do for crafting, so crafting trophies, crafting gear, etc. But yeah, it does actually appear that you can make yourself some of the sandals, the bind and equip version, with materials, with stuff that you could trade to other players from the raid. That's fairly interesting. The third set of gear from the raid is another craftable. So again, this is only obtained through crafting. There is no way to actually get this to drop, and that is the Gorgonite. So it's a little bit confusing because we have the Gorgon, which is craftable and a drop, and then we have the Gorgonite, which is only craftable. And the crafting recipe for this is pretty insane. You can see here you need 100 prismatic cloth, 50 prismatic leather, 30 prismatic ingots, armor matrix, prismatic scarab, and you also need Gorgon essence. And that in and of itself requires materials from the raid. In order to make the Gorgon essence, you need a Gorgonite inductor and you need the Gorgon's Eye. And again, these are only like limited drops from completing the raid or killing the bosses, and the same with the inductor as well. I believe that it's awarded upon killing. Let's see. Yeah, we got the Gorgonite inductor here. Raid drop. So you have to complete the raid in order to get the inductor, and you have to complete the raid or kill some bosses in order to get the eye, and then you have the chance to make yourself the Gorgonite gear. But this stuff is ludicrously expensive. Like, I think it's going to be much better to go about making the other stuff, honestly, making the Gorgon gear, because it only requires the eye and the schematic, and it's tradable as well. So I'm not entirely sure why you would go ahead and make this stuff. Perhaps you have like full customization over the perks or whatever. This will only show up as a crafting recipe if you have the Gorgon essence in your inventory. And again, if you want to make the Gorgon essence, you need Gorgon's Eye, Gorgon Inductor. So these are drops only from the raid, and then you can make this stuff. I think it's just an alchemy station. It's not too bad to, or Arcana repository or whatever they call them. So yeah, that is the TLDR on the raid drops. You have all of this hoplite gear, which is basically just a drop, but you can also get currency from the raid and then craft them at the gypsum kiln. So it's kind of like the way the materia works in the game currently. And then you have the Gorgon gear, which is basically just drops as well. Always drops at 725, but the perks are random. And then you have the next tier of the Gorgon's gear, which is also crafted. And that's the stuff that is bind on equip, so you could trade it to other players, but it does require the schematic, obviously, and the Gorgon's Eye, so there's still some sort of raid content that you need to do in there. And then finally, we have the Gorgonite gear, as we talked about. It's quite confusing. Gorgons, Gorgonite, and the Gorgonite stuff is only crafted, and even then, if you do want to craft this stuff, as we previously mentioned, you still need things from the raid. You need that Gorgon essence, which obviously does require, again, the raid material. So it's all in some way or the other. You're either going to have a player go into the raid and get the materials for you, or go in there yourself. All right, and finally, the section of the video that is maybe the most interesting for you guys is what gear can you upgrade to 725? Now, spoilers, it's actually a pretty limited pool, and basically any of your existing named items that you have, any of your existing crafted items, Basically anything other than artifacts, as far as I can tell, you can't upgrade them, which is going to be a bit of a bummer to people who aren't looking forward to grinding out tons of materials again. But yeah, this is a list of upgradable items that are attainable in New World Aeternum. And of course, we've got the hoplite stuff that we talked about. Then we have the PvP items that we covered at the beginning of the video. And then we have artifacts. And then we have the sandworm gear. So let's start off with the hoplite gear. If you want to upgrade this stuff, upgrade recipes, you can take it to the gypsum kiln. And of course, you're going to need the ring, a matrix, dark matter, gypsum orbs, 3 chromatic seals, and a Gorgon's Eye. So you're going to have to do the raid and the Gorgon's Eye. Again, there is a weekly sort of lockout on this. I think there's a 35% chance at getting these from each one of the bosses. So in theory, you could get multiple per week. And as far as I can tell, you can trade them. It's probably going to be a very valuable material. Definitely going in that raid is going to be a good way to get some gold if you can get some Gorgon's Eye if you don't want to use them for upgrading. But yeah, if you want to upgrade hoplite gear, you need the pretty standard stuff that you would have for upgrading named items. Next up, we have the PvP gear. If you want to upgrade this, it's a little bit different. So this is one of the bows that you can basically buy. I think, again, it comes in at 710 by default. We took a look at the crafting recipe for that. It's just doubloons. But you can upgrade this stuff as well. If we go here, you can see you can upgrade it at the Well of Fortune, so not the Gypsum Kiln, whatever the shop is effectively for the PvP items. You can upgrade the gear that you buy from there, and again, you're going to need more doubloons, you're going to need another coconut, and then you're going to need 300 dark matter. So not too bad. Obviously, dark matter you can just get from the PvP rewards track, so it does look like the PvP sort of content is self-sustaining in that way. In that you're just going to need to keep getting those gold cursed coconuts. That's going to be the time lock there, because you could just spend all day in the PvP island acquiring doubloons, but coconuts are only once a week, and they are bind on pickup. So pretty straightforward when it comes to upgrading those. Next up, we have items that you get from the sandworm. Now, this is in a range from 700 to 710. These are acquired, let's see, contained in major sandworm spoils, minor sandworm spoils. So yeah, basically these boxes. I think, by the way, it has to be new boxes. Could be mistaken, though. It might, I don't know if you have any existing boxes. But either way, these can also be upgraded to 725. We take a look. You can see this is the Great Axe being upgraded to 725 here. It's done at the Gypsum Kiln, and it requires a Weapon Matrix, 300 Dark Matter, 1 Gypsum Orb, 3 Chromatic Seals, and 2 Gorgon's Eyes. It's quite expensive. You're going to need 2 Gorgon's Eye for this one, as opposed to 1 for the Hoplite Ring. Let's just check what it's like with the Hoplite Weapon as well, out of curiosity. Yeah, it does appear to be the same. So we get the ring here, and then we get the Great Axe, same amount of materials. And then if we go back over to the Great Axe here, so yeah, it's just you need 1 extra Gorgon's Eye for Sandworm gear, and a little bit more Dark Matter as well. So I don't know. I think considering the amount of effort it takes to go into the Sandworm, it's probably just going to be easier to just go do the raid and skip the Sandworm, because you need to do the raid to upgrade the sandworm gear anyway. But yeah, that is another piece of gear that can be upgraded, and with the sandworm stuff, there is weapons, there is armor, and there is jewelry, so there's quite a bit of sandworm gear to be had. And then finally, we have our artifacts. Your existing artifacts can also be upgraded to 725, and you have 2 different options for this. So we go down to the bottom option here, and this is upgrading to 725. This is done with the item, Dark Matter, Gypsum Orb, Chromatic Seal, and then you're going to have your armor, weapon, or jewelry matrix. And then you have the choice. You can use the coconut, which you get once per week from the PvP zone, or the inductor, which you get once per week from the raid. So there is a weekly lockout on upgrading artifacts as well. So you're only going to be able to upgrade 1 artifact a week. Actually, in theory, you could do 2, right? Because you could get 1 from the PvP island. So if you're doing the PvP island and the raid every single week, then you'll be able to upgrade 2 artifacts per week. But yeah, there is obviously a lockout on that one as well. And that kind of covers it there. Honestly, friends, I've been through New World Database pretty extensively, and I haven't seen any other items you can upgrade. So like I say, if you have any existing sort of stuff, I've spent quite a bit of time and gold and money acquiring amulets with different sort of health and protection perks on them. Obviously upgrading things at the Gypsum Kiln. From what I can tell, those items are basically, they're old now. How important it's going to be to get to 725, those of you in PvP will know that it's a fairly big deal, just having that extra gear score. I think I did the maths, and the difference between 700 and 725 is basically 4 extra attributes per piece of gear. So if we times that by 10, that's 40 extra attributes, which is basically just having a permanent food buff all the time, kind of. So yeah, 40 extra attributes, fairly big deal. So 725 is going to make the difference, but the only way that you can get it is basically the TLDR. You do the raid, and then you can craft stuff from the raid or get it as a drop. You do the PvP island, and then you spend your doubloons and coconuts on those boxes, and also upgrading items wherever the PvP crafting station is. You've got your outpost rush, which you want to be doing once a week. And that seems to be it, friends. Yeah, so it's the raid in the PvP zone, pretty much. Also, the chance to get 725 from Outpost Rush. Interestingly enough, I haven't seen anything, any information on New World database in the data mining so far that suggests it's worthwhile doing mutated expeditions. There doesn't seem to be any way to get 725 from M3, and also having Azoth Inductors, the current sort of max tier crafting material. Again, those seem to be kind of pointless as well. So this is all preliminary. It is just from looking into data mining, so perhaps things will make more sense when we get into game, my friends. And you know, time will tell. So if you want to see a follow-up video on this, if things do start to make more sense, I will upload one, and you can subscribe for that one. But let me know what you guys think about this upgrading and gear acquisition method for 725 gear, skull, weapons, armor, jewelry. Does seem to be a lot more grindy than previously, a lot more time gated. You guys a fan of that? Not so much. I feel like right now it's very easy to get to 700 gear score. Gonna be not so easy to get to 725. I have to see how it plays out. Anyway, that is the video, friends. As always, I'll catch you all in the next one.